Hello everyone. Today we're going to be doing a one-day design to mold to fish challenge, doing a design I like to call the Hydra Worm, and this is going to take us about 6 hours going from design to mold to the river to catch a fish. And to complete this challenge, we're going to be designing an injection molded soft plastic lure bait and then 3D printing it. And with that, we don't have any time to waste, so let's get started. So to do this bait, first we're going to start by doing a sketch outline of what we want the lure to look like, and then doing a revolved body to get the basic overall shape of what we want. And what we're going to be going after is a relatively small, I guess you would call it a creature bait. It's going to be a worm with 4 little appendages coming off near the head, about 2 inches long. It's not really going to be made to look like anything particular in the water, just a shape I think the fish are going to be interested in and want to hit. And with that, we got our overall body laid out, and now it's time to start working on the appendages. And through this process, you're going to see one of the things that is not so great about the CAD software I'm using called FreeCAD. FreeCAD is great in that it is free. It is not great in the fact that it is buggy, and you will try to do things that should work, and for some reason or another, they just don't, and you gotta bang your head against the wall to figure it out until they do. But one of the nice things, and also at the same time not so nice things about FreeCAD, is there's like 5 or 6 different ways to do literally everything, so if you try one way it doesn't work, you can try 3 other ways until something does. And here I'm setting up to do another revolved sketch like we did for the main body, and for some reason or another, you'll see later, it just does not want to work. But that's what we're doing here, is setting up the sketch to do a revolved body. And I've already spoiled the ending here. We're going to try it and it's not going to work, but I want to show you what it's going to do here because it was just a weird error, and I tried to do a bunch of different stuff to clear it. But yeah, look at that. And then I tried different profiles of the line to revolve it around, and I ultimately ended up just dropping trying to do this and doing what's called a pipe sweep. Other CAD programs would call it a swept path. Hold on, gotta skip this song here. Alright, we're back. But yeah, as I was saying, I was trying to do a lot to get this to work, just didn't want to work, and then I ultimately go back and try doing a swept pipe path, and you'll see that later on, pretty soon. To do the swept path, first you have to set up a cross section of the sketch that you want to sweep along the path. That's what I'm doing here, and then you need to set up the path that you want the sketch to be swept along. So that's what this is right here. And this tool is pretty neat. Here I'm just doing 2 circles, but you can set it up so that the cross section of one will basically taper into another cross section of another, and you can get some pretty cool and natural looking geometries. I also used this tool on the baby squiggles to get that tapering curve down the snake length of the bait, and that ended up working out really nice. One of the things that you'll find with a parametric modeler like FreeCAD is getting the natural looking bait profiles, particularly the really detailed things. Like if you were trying to do like a bluegill model, it would be very tricky to do in FreeCAD. Where a more friendly software to that, a mesh modeling software like Blender might be more advantageous for something like that. But I don't know Blender, I know FreeCAD. I'm not a graphic designer, I'm an engineer, so we're gonna stick with what we know. And here I just brought that angle of that arm up a little bit just to make it look a little bit more natural in my mind. So we got the one arm. Now let's work on getting 4 arms, and we're gonna do that by taking this body, mirroring it, and then mirroring it again and again, and then rotating those bodies around until we got 4 arms rotated 90 degrees each from each other to get this bait profile that we want. And here we get a nice little error message, but we eventually get all 4 arms together, and now we got to take all 4 bodies, join them into one using our Boolean operation, and here we go. Here's the bait outline of the Hydra Worm, and now we got to take this and turn it into a mold. And doing the mold in theory is really simple. You just got to model the basic shape, the basic outline of the mold, and then take the body of the bait. Hold on, I gotta change this song real quick. This one sucks. Alright. This one's a banger. Okay, here we go. As I was saying, you subtract that body of the lure from the body of the mold, get the cavity, and then there's your mold. You're good to go. But you can't just do the body of the bait. You also have to do the nozzle. So it's really easy. That's what we're doing here. Same thing, do a Boolean operation. Subtract the nozzle geometry from the mold. There you go. I love you, Nickelback, but you're killing me today. Alright, back to the mold. We got it all set up, and we're just going to do our Boolean operations to subtract the mold from each of the separate cavities here. Except that's not going to end up working, so we're going to delete those 3 blank bodies and then do more mirrors to get it to work. Again, this is just one of those things about FreeCAD where you can get it to work eventually, but you got to try it 3 different ways sometimes. And to be clear, there's nothing wrong with FreeCAD. It has its place. It's just not anywhere nearly as polished as a software like SolidWorks or Inventor. I like to use it because as a hobbyist, you don't have to worry about the commercial issues. Particularly with like software like Fusion 360, you don't, as a hobbyist, you don't actually own the models you create. The Autodesk company owns all of those models if you actually look at the licensing agreement on a software like that. Anyway, we got the molds the way we want them. Now we got to do more booleans to get the bolt through holes, and then we're going to be good to go. We're going to be solid and ready to print. And as we talked about earlier, doing this with 3D printed molds, it just makes it way easier to do things like this that you couldn't do with other baits or other mold techniques. Like to do this design on a CNC mold, sure you can do it, but it would be very complicated, require multiple setups, and just not be easy or really that practical to do if you wanted to make a lot of them. So this design in particular is really showcasing what you can do with these 3D printed molds. And speaking of the 3D printing, we're going to get into that right now. So the slicer software that I use is called Orca Slicer. It's a relatively new slicer on the market, but it's got preset profiles for a ton of different filaments, brands of printers, really anything you can imagine, and you don't really need to tweak the profiles to get them to work. In my experience, you set up the layer heights and the infills and the things like that that you want, the supports, and then you select the filament, select your printer, click print, and it just prints. It really makes it more like an appliance than if you were into 3D printing many years ago before this new generation of the Core XY printers like the Bamboos and all the Bamboo copies out there. This is so much easier to 3D print stuff now than it was even a couple years ago. So with that, we've got our G-code sliced up. All that's left now to do is to print it. Until next time, Nickelback. Until next time. Anyway, now we got our USB plugged into our printer. We're going to select our mold right here, hit level, and print. Like I said, like an appliance, super easy. And the printer I'm using here is a FlashForge Adventurer 5M. For the money, best printer on the market, hands down, no contest. I have a Bamboo Labs X1C, which is basically the top of the line hobbyist printer right now, and I find myself using this one because it just works. Not that the Bamboo doesn't work, I just don't have to worry about the FlashForge if something were to happen to it. The Bamboo is also amazing. Anyway, let's get pouring. I printed 2 molds. I have 2 FlashForge 5Ms and just loaded up the same model, printed at the same time. Got this nice green color, again, melting Crayola crayons in the plastic, gets that nice color. And then we got them set up and we're going to tear them down. And these ones being this complicated 4-piece mold instead of the regular 2-piece, I needed more screws and it just took quite a bit more time to tear them down. But that's okay because that's the sacrifice you have to make to do something like this. And with that, let's take a look at our first Hydra Worm. Look at that. Came out really nice. Look at those arms. They came out great. I ended up pouring 6 total for this one day. I only showed 2, and here's the second one. Both came out looking really great. Any moment now, I'll show the other one. There it is. Look at those. I think those came out really nice. I know they're going to work. With that, I got down to the river, headed out to my favorite fishing spot, and caught this green sunfish. And that was it. This mold and others like it are available at www.3dprintedmolds.com. Hope to see you there.